Hey, Rachel Eubanks specializes in words that will improve your life or your business. Whether it's strengthening your reputation or presenting your product in the best light, words can help you put your best foot forward. Rachel is a professional copywriter, a consultant, and the host of one of my favorite podcasts, Inspire to Engage. Hey, welcome to the Flipping Genius podcast, Rachel.
I am so happy to be here, Randy. I'm not kidding. I admire you so much, and you are such a good cheerleader to me and to so many other people that honestly, it's an honor to be here to talk to you. And I've heard you talk a lot about your audience. And so I'm excited to get a chance to share a little bit with them as well. So thank you so much for having me. And thank you for being, what Randy left out is that we're good friends in real life, that we're really business friends in real life. And so I appreciate that. And that probably means more than, than anything that being on this podcast, business wise, I appreciate him personally too. So thank you, Randy.
Thanks. That's very, very nice. I try to leave out some of the things that are in my head, because when they come out of my mouth, then we'll all be here for 24 hours because I've got too much stuff up in here. Talking about the audience, the Flipping Genius audience is really, it's growing for one thing, and it's interesting because they range in experience from licensed used car dealers and flippers who are doing wholesale deals. I've got a guy who listens to us religiously in Texas who's flipped over 30,000 cars in his career.
Wow.
And then we've got guys who are still afraid to raise their hand at an auction, which is good. Don't raise your hand unless you know what you're buying. But we've got everybody in between, and it's exciting. But despite all, the oil and the dirt and the paint and the money involved in the car business, one of the most important tools that we all use is our words. Words persuade, they inspire. My wife says they agitate. And so can you, the words are your plaything. This is what you do. So tell us, how did you get there? What qualifies you uniquely to help us with our words?
First of all, I started out as a teacher. I was a public school teacher for 13 years. And I tell anybody that's willing to listen to my story, teaching is marketing all the time, all day, every day. And so I started out as a public school teacher. And in fact, I love school so much. I love teaching it and being in it that I actually have a master's in English and I have a doctorate in instructional leadership. Wow. So the second thing that I tell people is I have written a lot in my lifetime. And what happened was I came home to be with my boys. They were 4 and 2, and my husband and I both looked at each other and said that I wanted to be home more. And we both agreed on that. And so I came home, and what I realized, Randy, though, was that teaching was extremely creative. I didn't realize that I was using that as my creative outlet until I came home and I was no longer teaching. And I started looking around for something that allowed me to still be creative and to still be with my boys. And slowly but surely, I discovered writing, and I started pitching to some local companies that I liked and wanted to work for. And sure enough, they took me up on it. And so ever since then, I've been writing for businesses. I've been learning from other copywriters so that I can talk to other business owners and that I can actually do the writing for them so that they speak to their customers' pain points, to their objections that they have, and do it with honesty, do it through entertainment. That's what copywriting is the biggest difference. And this is something I push back against. Copywriting requires you to really look at the customer's perspective. And Randy, you and I both know as business owners, that can get to be very hard. A lot of times what we do as business owners is we come rushing in with a piece of content and we're speaking about it from a business owner's standpoint, not what the customer actually cares about. And so that's where a good copywriter, they dig deep to figure out what your customer wants and how your product fits into what it is that they need in their life. And so that's how I came to be a copywriter, is that I have written academically for years. And copywriting is a good mixture of research, which is academic, and a mixture of psychology and entertainment. That's how I came to be a copywriter.
Now you mentioned something there that I always, it's like a buzzword that I hear. I'm old, so the buzzwords are all new now. Pain points. You said pain points, and I think you kind of explained it already, because you're talking about talking to the customer at where the customer is at. But that seems to be the target that I hear from all these coaches that I'm talking to, is find their pain point. Can you explain a little bit more of what that means and how it might translate to those of us who are trying to flip cars? We're trying to buy cars, we're trying to sell them.
Okay. I'm going to do the best I can, because I'm not a car flipper. So you just interject if you need to. But I agree with you. That's a buzzword. And I'm glad that you wanted to talk about that phrase for a second. What happens a lot of times, I'm going to pretend like I'm a car flipper. So once again, I apologize, everybody. But I'm going to pretend that I have, let's say, 5 cars that I'm wanting to get out of my garage or get off my lot. And I send an email that says something like, hey, I've got 5 cars. Would love for you guys to buy these. You know, I'll send it to my list of 300 or 400 people who've bought from me in the past or have shown interest somehow. Okay, so that is an example of where we're coming at it from a business standpoint. I've got 5 cars and I want them gone because I want to get more on my lot. That is the I. But if you send something differently that says, are you looking for a car with low mileage? Now you're talking to what you know customers are looking for. Or you could send something that says, hey, are you looking for cars that have never been wrecked? I've got 2 on my lot right now. So now you're talking to the pain points. You're talking to what customers come to you and say, hey, I need a low mileage car, or I need maybe it's a car that they're going to use for business and run the wheels off of it. So they want it to be low mileage and cheap because they're going to go run it to death too. Or in the past, they've come to you and said, let me tell you something. Someone's done me dirty in the past and sold me a car that had been wrecked 3 times. Do you know how much money we end up putting into that thing to keep it running? I don't want that anymore. So when you have conversations like that with your customers, you are listening into the language that they're using, and you're listening into, let's go back to that buzzword, their pain points, what they're concerned about. And then you use that in your copy. And it really comes from that standpoint of being service minded. There's nothing wrong as a business owner. I'm going to say this flat out. As business owners, we've got to want to make money. Otherwise, we don't have a business. We have a hobby. Right. I'm preaching to myself here, but I'm preaching to anybody else that's willing to listen to. Okay. So I'm not saying that as a business owner, it is not right to have that mindset of, I've got to get these cars off my lot. There's nothing wrong with that mindset. Where we go wrong as business owners is using that mindset to write and speak to our customers. Because I'm just going to be honest, your customers don't care that you got 5 cars on your lot. They care if you've got a car that's low mileage, or they care that you have a car that hasn't been wrecked 14 times. That's the difference. And that's what I mean by you speak to their pain points. What is it that they're looking for? And then you speak to that. And that can be hard to do. And that comes with practice. But the first thing I suggest to everybody is that you're, number one, mindful of it. If you are mindful of the fact that good copy comes from a customer standpoint and not a business owner standpoint, you will be better right away. And then the second thing is it just takes practice. You just have to write and speak and be mindful about it as you do.
That's great stuff. I love it. Rachel mentioned that we're business friends and we belong to a mastermind group, and I call it the ladies group because it just happens to be all beautiful women and me, and I've even written a little theme song for them. But it's so fun because I get to talk to them every couple of weeks and listen to. They all think differently than I do, and I think I bring something to the table because I think differently than everybody. I think
exactly.
So it's fun. Now I want to talk about teamwork a little bit later, but one thing before I jump ahead because my brain only works one step at a time. I just heard I was talking to Randy Jones a couple times this week. Randy Randy is the director of the Alabama Independent Auto Dealers Association, and he's just this wealth of information. Every time I talk to him, I get smarter. And he was talking about a couple things that kind of relate to this. Like one of the things is when we sell a car, we have to give a report to the person as a licensed dealer. Now, if you're not a licensed dealer, you don't necessarily have to follow any rules, but that's a whole different story. But we give a report that shows if there's any outstanding recalls on the vehicle, and they can get them fixed for free. And sometimes I'll get them fixed if I'm selling a more expensive car. But if I'm selling a car for $1,800, I'll just give them the thing and say there's 3 outstanding recalls. Take up to Honda and get them fixed if you want to. That's kind of my approach. But Randy said, number one, a lot of dealers don't even realize that they're supposed to do that. So we all need to know that that's a rule. But way we turn that into a sale, a future sale, is 7 months down the road, we run monthly reports, and we find that 2005 Honda that we sold 7 months ago just have a recall pop up on their airbag. And we call them, or we send them a note and saying, hey, I just realized you bought this car from us 7 months ago. Honda just did a recall. They'll fix it for you for free. Just wanted to make you aware of it. I loved it because I'm smart enough to realize that the customer is going to see this as a service. It's absolutely a service.
Exactly.
And that's where sales comes from. The sales are going to come from the fact that this person recognizes that you care. Now, I don't care that you're doing it for purely from a selfish reason. If that's really what you're doing, you're saying, I'll be nice. And when I get nice, I make money. That's fine if that's how you do it. But the fact is you are being nice, and you're reaching them where they are, like Rachel said. And it's a great thing. Here's another little tip that I picked up from Randy. Out of college, I sold life insurance. That was the first thing I did. And I always say, if you can sell life insurance and advertising, you can sell anything. So I don't even, I don't even try to sell cars or real estate. It sells itself. I just get out of the way and let it do its job. But one of the things we always did is we sent birthday cards out. You get I still get birthday cards from my life insurance guy. And the thing that he does wrong, well, he couldn't do this, but the thing that I always did wrong too, is I always sent that birthday card to their house. And Randy said, don't send it to their house. Everybody at their house knows it's their birthday. Send it to their work. And whoever gets the mail now is going to say, hey, this looks like a birthday card. And maybe they'll call him up front and say, hey, Johnny, please come up in the front and see the boss. And because he doesn't get that mail at work all the time. And he hands him that card. He opens it up. It's his birthday. And who sent you the birthday card? This car dealer I bought that old Chevy from. Is he a good guy? Next thing you know, you got referrals coming in from that. So these are a couple of sneaky little ideas I picked up today, and I thought they kind of relate to what you're talking about.
They do, and I want to interject because you're speaking to a point that's so important in communication. So it goes a little bit beyond copywriting, but is the best customers, where you get the wealth of your future customers comes from treating your existing customers well. Amen. Because I'm telling you, if your best friend says, go to Randy and buy a car there, you are going to go to Randy 9 times out of 10 compared to seeing an ad on Facebook, which may take you 35 times to see an ad on Facebook or 70 before you actually click on that ad or do anything. So you're right, taking care of your existing customers and coming at it with a service mindset. And like you said, most people are going to know that you still want to sell them a car in the future. But in the end, if you treat them well, they don't care. They're going to gladly hand the money over to you when they look for their next car in a year and a half, because you've been good to them this whole time. So existing customers are so important. I agree with you on that. And those are great two great tips right there from the other Randy.
and that's the thing. We all know that it's easier to sell something to somebody that has already bought from us. It's easier to sell something to a referral from a satisfied customer than it is to get that new customer. If you've ever gone out knocking on doors, going cold calling like this old boy did. I mean, I've been in the worst neighborhoods in Toledo, Ohio. That's where I started. Literally, they gave me an area and said, this is where you work. And that was also the area where you would get robbed. And I would go there and try to convince people to give me their money, door to door, businesses and houses. So once you've done that, you really realize the precious nature of this person who's already agreed to do business with you, and you learn to get referrals from them. And that's such a key thing. But part of the reason why I'm in our mastermind group, part of the reason why I'm working with Sarah, who is less than half my age, I think, and has made probably a quarter of the sales calls that I've made, is because she knows a different type of selling, because selling has changed. We're talking on this, this is like Jetsons stuff for you old guys, the Jetsons. I mean, we do things are just phenomenal, the technology we have, and we make decisions based on our computers and our phones, and we communicate through electronic things called emails. It's really amazing. But so another buzzword that I've heard, we've all heard, if anybody who's been marketing and selling and trying to improve your lot in life is starting to hear this thing called a sales funnel. And it took me a while to kind of figure out what it was. I realized soon it was just new terminology for something I learned when I was
for something you've been doing. Yeah.
but it's a little different now because people are all talking like this. You know, they don't want to pick up the phone and call. They don't want to see face to face. There's still old guys like me that do, but we all have to learn how to communicate. So along those lines, Rachel, what do you have a recommendation for if we're communicating with emails or texts or one of these ways? Do you set up a systematic flow of what you're sending out, and you know, to be careful not to do that thing where I know I sometimes just oversell. I'm just boom going for that close, and I know that that's not the way to do it. What do you do about that?
Okay, so that's a great question, and in my mind, I would divide it into two categories. I want to talk in two categories. The first category would be people who are very new to you. I'm going to come back to them. They're new on your radar. And then the second category are your existing customers, because we do want to still keep talking to them as well, because of all the things that we've just talked about. And I love the fact that Randy referenced one of our mutual friends, Sarah Mae Dickinson. She's a fantastic sales coach. I've learned a lot of sales mentality from her and from Randy. And so some of this that I'm going to share, it does correspond with the stuff that Sarah teaches as well. And of course, I'm coming at it from the written word standpoint, but copywriting is a form of sales. It just is. So let's go back to the people who are brand new on your radar. Somehow they've either landed on your website and you've been notified about that. Maybe they've messaged you on Facebook. Maybe they've even reached out by email. Maybe they stopped by in person, because I'm like you, I still love, and COVID's taught us to really still love in-person opportunities. Somehow they have landed on your radar and they're new to you. I would recommend some type of system to continue talking to them, keeping the conversation going. That's something that Sarah Mae Dickinson talks a lot about, is how do you keep that conversation going? And so whether your system can be super fancy, you could be using a CRM, a customer relationship management tool, or it could be a Excel sheet or Excel or Google Sheets, where you're literally just putting their name. And then from there, I would suggest that you come up with anywhere from 3 to 5 pieces of communication. And what it would be is, now they may have reached out. Let's just give this example. Let's say they reached out to you on Facebook. They direct messaged you and said, hey, do you have a Nissan that's under, I don't know, 100,000 miles? In that situation, of course, you're going to write back a yes or no to them. Now, you would hope that they would immediately jump into being very close, being a warm audience to you, and that you're going to sell to them very quickly. But let's pretend that they don't then write back to you. That's when you're going to want to start that nurture sequence. And that's where you're going to want to start those 3 to 5 messages to them. Now, because they wrote to me in Facebook, I would stick to Facebook right now. Do you see what I'm saying? Because they've already raised their hand and said, hey, Facebook's easy for me. So for you, you're going to stick to Facebook. But I would keep my messages. These messages would be the same, whether it's in email or whether it's in Facebook And I would then reach back out to this person with a question, a quick greeting like, hello, and then go into straight, hey, what is more important to you? Low mileage or no wrecks? Okay. And when you do something like that, when you're messaging, they're cold. We're going to pretend like they never wrote back after you responded to them. So they're cold. What a lot of us do wrong is we write back with a question like this. Hey, are you looking for something? Well, number one, they've probably already told us they're looking for something because they did land on our website or they private messaged us. So that question is too open-ended because when people are in the bank line, when they're checking out at Walmart and they open their messages on Facebook and they see this really big, broad question, hey, are you looking for something? Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? What are you talking about? That is such a wide option that they're just probably going to close that message and move on. But if your message gives them some meat to sink their teeth into, if you give them options, what's more important to you, low mileage or no wrecks? Well, now, no matter where they're checking that message, they are now thinking about cars because your message hinted that you're talking about cars. It quickly reminded them, oh yeah, this is a used car guy. Got it. Remembered. And then you've given them a quick way to answer you. Oh, low mileage is more important to me. Or maybe sometimes what happened is they're like, oh yeah, neither one of these matter. I wrote to him about the Nissan, and they actually made them write back to you about the Nissan. Now, I make that point to say, we also know that some people aren't going to write back to you after that first message. That's fine. This is where your system comes in. This is where you're going to have a series of 3 to 5 messages very similar to that one. Are you looking for a car that's been in the last 5 years? That's a simple yes or no. And then that could be message number 2, maybe. Let's say that they never wrote back to you after you said, yeah, I've got a Nissan on my lot. Let's pretend that they never did. After about day 2 or 3, that's when I would start my nurture sequence on them. I would then send that very first message that says, what's more important to you, low mileage or no wrecks? That's day 1. If they still don't write back, I'd come back with message number 2, maybe on day 2 of the nurture sequence, and come back with that question, the next question. And I would create with those 3 to 5 messages. I would do that within the next week because they were hot. They were looking for something at the time. That's why they landed there. So I would hit them up pretty hard with 3 to 5 messages. Once again, don't make it super huge and open-ended. Hey, write me if you got a question. Are you kidding me? Okay, I've got 400 questions, or I literally have none. Give them something to answer you back with.
That's great.
The next thing I would say is, as soon as they answer you, be sure that you take them out of that system. So whether you're using truly like a drip campaign, something that's very fancy like the CRM, be sure that you remove them from that system, because you don't want them to then realize, oh my gosh, he just had me in a system. Remove them and then start talking to them as a warm audience. But those type of questions do several things for you as a business owner. It starts letting you know right away if they answer you, you do know that they felt very led to answer that question. And you now know something too, that when you start talking to them to sell them a specific product, you know exactly what they're looking for. You know that low mileage matters to them more. So that's what I would do as far as someone that's brand new on your radar. I do think you have to nurture them, that you do need to be talking to them definitely with, 3 to 5 times within that first week. And I'll let you speak to this here in a second. I would probably drop them off of my radar for a couple of weeks, for 2 to 3 weeks. And then maybe one more message back to them that says, are you still looking for that Nissan, or are you still shopping for a used car? Just as another check-in. Now let's talk about the people who've already bought from you.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is great stuff. I want to translate a little bit because like Rachel said, she's not a car flipper. No. She's a human. and I mean, this is brilliant stuff, but sometimes you need to be able to absorb it and wrap it up in our direction. So car flippers, you guys know, you do have some people that are looking for cars, and you're doing that side of it too. your marketing, just like Rachel said, that stuff applies. But I want you to flip the other side, because we're looking to buy vehicles. We want to buy vehicles. We've got to find those people that are selling them. We do exactly the same type of stuff, but just use your brain. We've all got one. Wrap around what Rachel just said and retarget that audience over there. It could be the title pawn places that I've been telling you to go see. It could be the used car dealer that you're trying to buy off his back lot. It could be the individual that responded to your posted note that you put on their mailbox, or the bandit sign that says "I buy cars," and they've contacted you. You entered them into the same system, and you use, I love these terms, use that nurture sequence to nurture that possible lead along, because we all know that just as important as that repeat buying customer is, that repeat selling customer to us is just as important, because we make our money when we spend it, right, brothers? So that is what we're all trying to do. And sisters, we got about 8% of our listeners are beautiful women from all around the world. We know that they're beautiful.
Yes, they are.
So I just wanted to tag that in. So let me let you go back to that next step.
Well, first of all, Randy, I'm so glad that you did that, because you definitely understand your audience more than I do. And so I would, just like Randy said, you know who you were trying to sell to and get their attention to. So definitely think about messages that are going to make it easy for them to respond back to you. Nothing too super wide open, because you're not going to get a response back. Something that gives them quick yes and no's, or yes, I'm willing to sell, or no, you're not asking, I'm not selling it for that low, whatever. Get those responses back. So to the second side, of course, I would encourage you to continue emailing people who have bought from you in the past or have sold, like the point that you're making, that flippers are looking to also sell. Buy from people. So I would still be contacting those people. And the copywriter in me says that it does need to be on a consistent basis. And that when you write to them, this is going to be another buzz phrase that everybody hears, but you do need to offer value. So what that means, once again, you have to take off your business hat for a second and think about what value in my emails can I offer them. So if you are sending to the list that has purchased from you personally before, then you are really going to be sharing pictures of cars that you've got for sale, or you're giving them a reminder of what they should be doing to their cars now that it's about to be spring. How do you keep that car running well in the spring, or when it comes winter? Like you said, that recall, if you know certain recalls are out, you list that in your newsletter. And then on the other side, if people have allowed you to purchase their vehicles, same thing, that may be a different list, but you are still corresponding with them on a consistent basis, even if it's just once a month, because that is keeping you top of mind, and you're getting to be a part of their life. They may choose not to open it, and that's okay. People get so worked up over the fact that people haven't opened their emails, or people get so upset because someone unsubscribes. And I'm just here to tell you, if someone unsubscribes from your list, this sounds mean, but good riddance. They probably weren't going to buy from you again, or allow you to purchase from them again. They just probably weren't. If an email once a month makes them that angry, oh well, holla, bye. And
I should go visit them at their house.
You just go knock on their door and say, hey, why'd you unsubscribe from my list?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah. And then people get really upset about the unopened. But the thing is you and I know that I still subscribe to emails that I don't open every single time. But when I need something, what do I go and do? I scroll back and I find that email and I open it again and I reread it. Exactly. And so I would tell people that is so much better than the alternative of not being in that person's life, period. So that is my advice to talking to the people who have purchased from you in the past, or you have purchased from them in the past, and you want to keep those lines of communication open. But just make sure, this is my warning, that you don't go into it with this mindset, Randy, and I was so guilty of this for a long time. It's the end of the month, I guess I got to write them. Because when you sit down to write with that mindset, then you're no longer serving them and recognizing the amount of money that's on the table in that list. You are looking at it as drudgery, something that you're not looking forward to. And we've all opened those emails, or I'll say we've opened them once and we don't open them again. The emails that you can tell someone just slopped some words on there and moved on. And the thing is everybody, I don't want to sound mean right here. I want to say everybody can write for their business. You just have to write at it you have to come at it with a servant's heart. People get so wrapped up and so worried about, but you don't understand, Rachel, I'm horrible at English, or my grammar is so bad. For the most part, I've never unsubscribed from an email because someone didn't put periods where periods should go, or they misspelled a word here and there. I've never unsubscribed from that. So the point is how you write to your audience, and that you write to it in what they care about. As far as the cars, if you write to it about what they care about, believe me, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Don't let your grades from English in 9th grade tell you that you can't be a copywriter for your business.